So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I am super excited to be joined by an amazingly talented actor in the form of Marc Baylis. How are you, Mark? Welcome along.
I'm very well. Thank you for your kind words. Thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I mean, so much to talk about. Of course, we will talk a bit about Coronation Street and some other projects that you've worked on. But how are things at the moment? How is life at the moment?
It's good. It's busy. It's busy. We've got a young family here, so we're just on our first summer holidays of our eldest finishing reception. So yeah, the house is a very full and noisy house, and yeah, life is busy. Life is great. Yeah, I feel very lucky at the moment.
Now, obviously, let's go back to where it all began for yourself and take us back to what was your earliest memory, knowing that performing, acting was what you wanted to do. Can you remember where the bug kind of bit you, as it were?
As a child, my mum was always kind of suggesting that I should either start doing some dance or something creative along those lines. But I was hell bent on playing football, basically. Yeah, a time came probably when I was about 13, 14. I'd just come off the back of a bad knee injury, actually, and I was just kind of starting my football back up, but I'd found other avenues throughout that period of time, and there was an English and drama tutor of mine called John Nichol at school, and he opened up various pathways and lots of fun and found a really good way for me to be learning and educating, and that's when basically I started acting. It was at school really.
And were people quite accepting? Because I know when I was younger, and anyone who kind of showed any interest in acting, you'd have a certain group of people who would sort of say, "Oh, why you want to do that?" So
Yeah.
did you find that you had a kind of resistance, or were people quite accepting?
I mean, yeah, it was an interesting time, music wise. We're kind of the middle of the Nirvana period and all of that kind of stuff. So I probably had a skateboard in tow as well. So, I think everything was kind of accepted. We were quite lucky within our network of friends that, we had some musos in there as well. And I remember we did, me and three other really dear mates of mine, we did a production of Bouncers within school. And we had the best time. It was just playtime. It was four young lads having a right old laugh, really. And I think that was the one that really set me up instead creatively. I just enjoyed it so much. And then it was kind of Artful Dodger in Oliver, and did a production of My Fair Lady as well. And there was just a good energy. It was a healthy energy that kind of set it up on the right trajectory, really.
And I mean, can you remember the first time standing on a stage and performing and crowd reaction? What was that like for yourself?
The first time I was ever on stage was probably in primary school, and I remember having like a cardboard cutout of an electric guitar, and I mean, I went for it, I proper went for it. But yeah, no, it probably would have been throughout Bouncers or playing the Artful Dodger. To be fair, it was those two moments that I really got the theatre buzz and the timing of a live theatre audience and finding mainly with those kind of like the comedy, the timing of comedy. That was the main intro for me initially.
And obviously, it was the early 2000s when you kind of first sort of started to make a bit of a sort of a noise on the sort of the TV scene, as it were. What was
Yeah.
that? How was that getting into that sort of line of work? Because obviously, you've done theatre. How
Mm.
is it transitioning to then being on TV?
It, it, it was a lot of hard work, to be fair. I did start out in theatre. When I first left drama school, it was a lot of Shakespeare tours, a lot of classical theatre, which it has put me in good stead, really, and something that I'd love to go back to at some point as well. But yeah, it was kind of just as the digital era was starting, so you didn't really get much TV or screen training at drama school at that time. You get a couple of hours for a few terms each year, but that was about it. And then I think you made one short film, which would be essentially be one scene in your final year. And I felt that that wasn't enough. So I just kind of, whilst I was working on theatre or in commercials and that side of things, I went out and just made loads of short films and working for other directors and basically working for nothing just to kind of work on my screen craft and get that experience. So kind of self-trained on the job in a way. It was kind of with that, I guess it's kind of what you would put as a parallel to the generation before me having rep theatre or something like that. It was very much get out there and get your hands dirty and make some mistakes that no one would see really. But from that, telly, I was quite fortunate that I'd landed my first TV gig within a couple of years of leaving drama school. But then because of being on theatre gigs, it kind of waned off for a bit, and then it was just a gradual kind of rebuild in the late noughties, really, to kind of crescendo to getting Rob in Corrie, I guess.
I mean, obviously, there's a big difference between live theatre and TV, and I mean, because I think a lot of people maybe don't realise that. Oh, you do one, so you can automatically do the other. Because there's a lot you have to get used to on a film or TV set that you wouldn't
Yeah.
obviously need to know on a in a play or something. So did you find that quite interesting to kind of learn something new and working in film and TV?
100%. I think craft-wise, they're probably the opposite process. It's kind of you have very, very little time with filming, even with independent film. Time is money, and there's not a lot of money on that scene. And I love that scene. I love kind of going out there and people with the same enthusiasm for a certain project to just see what you can make, and forget money and all that kind of stuff. Just be creative and see what you can get, but you have no time whatsoever. Whereas on a theatre gig, you're in lockdown in a rehearsal space for a good few weeks and playing around and trying to hone and shape a performance that during the run, you get one take out. Whereas if it does go a bit pear-shaped, then you can always say, please can I have another take. So yeah, it's the opposite way of working, but I think that's the beauty of working across both mediums is that it keeps you on your toes. It's a lovely way of working in both ways, and you have different skills that you can kind of lend to each of the different styles of creativity.
Now, obviously, we will talk about Coronation Street, but before we go into Coronation Street, I just want to say because that wasn't your first soap role, and I believe you had done a role in Doctors and in
Yeah,
EastEnders, if I'm not mistaken. So, what were
yeah,
they like as
and
kind of
Hollyoaks,
and
and Hollyoaks.
Hollyoaks?
Yeah, yeah, that kind of goes under the radar, so I'm kind of probably flying that flag. Yeah. Great introductions to that way of working. It was I think I started with Doctors on that one. It was the first time that really I'd worked with multicam in the studio, and it felt really quick. It was rapid, and it was almost, I felt as if I hadn't actually done the gig almost. It was that fast. But thankfully it came out well in the edit. But I think that was the deep end of working with multicam. EastEnders, it was playing a drunken reveler. I think it was either New Year's or Christmas Eve or something like that, and ended up passing out in the Vic. So that was great fun. It was yeah. Again, it's honing your skills and going in there. But with stuff like that, with guest roles, I firmly believe that going in as a guest artist on running dramas or series or whatever it may be, I think that's a much harder gig than what it is being a regular, because you've just got to hit the ground running straight away, and you kind of, you're relying on those around you to just go, yeah, let's do it. It's tough. It's tough.
Now, obviously, in 2012 was when you became part of the Corrie cast as Rob Donovan. How did that come about? How did you get that role? And what was it like stepping foot on the iconic cobbles? Because I know there are a million people that would bite your hand off for that opportunity. What was that like?
Yeah, it was a funny one. It was kind of it was off the back of off a run. I was on a really good run with jobs, and I was doing some nice stuff, and it was I think the meeting came in something around March time, something like that. And I'd never auditioned for Corrie before, and I'd never kind of understood why. And as soon as I read the breakdown for Rob, who originally was called Darren, I believe, I just knew that I could do a good job of that role, really. So yeah, it was before the days of self tapes. I found myself heading up to Manchester from London with a couple of days prep and meeting Jenny Radcliffe, the casting director, and the icon, with the it was in the old studios, so you kind of you are walking through iconic corridors of TV history, and you're walking past the cobbles and everything, and you feel it. You do, that gets the old ticker going. It's a hell of a rush. Um, but because I felt that I could do a good job of Rob, I kind of kept my head and went in there, and I as soon as I started the first scene, I felt that Jenny was kind of on the same page as well, and that we could have a good play with it and find a way. But the process it wasn't a short process. Um, I think it was only that meeting and a screen test, but it seemed to drag on and on and on forever. But then. Yeah, yeah, it was an interesting time, and I think the first words that Ali King said to me on my first day was that your life will never be the same again, and it's pretty true, really. We're talking 10, 13 years later now. It's a long time ago, but here we are still talking about it.
I mean, obviously, you just mentioned her, Alison King, such an icon on that show, and to play her on-screen brother, what was that like? You must have just love working with her.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people can probably tell from the material that we've put out there over the years that we are kind of like siblings in a way. We've got a really good understanding of the way that each other work. There's a lot of mutual respect there as well, and so we just play. We have a little play, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we go again, and we have a good laugh whilst we're doing it as well. And I think that's the recipe to creating good work, really. So yeah, it's been a privilege working together over the years.
And I mean, obviously, over because you were on the show, I believe it was about 4 or 5 years you were on the show, the sort of the first time round. You
Yeah.
got some amazing storylines, but for you, was there a favorite? Was there one that you just loved more than any other, or?
For me, it was probably interesting. It's a really good question, actually, because yeah, I've been really lucky that whenever I've been on the show, I've been busy. There's not everyone has it that way. A lot of people could be having periods where they're just twiddling their thumbs for a while. And I think I only ever had one block of that where I was kind of like, oh, where's the scripts gone? But I think it was just after that period actually, and it was all the build up to Tina. I felt that after that first few years, we'd all myself, the writers, the directors, we'd all got on the same page. It takes a lot of work to establish a long running character on a show. It takes a lot of cogs to be working together, and and it was the build up to that. I think it gave Rob a trajectory, or gave me something that I could play as Rob in a very different way to what I'd had before. We'd done all the hard work, and it was a very clear storyline that we were doing. So work-wise and challenge-wise, it was probably that, or the most recent stint that we've just finished as well at the beginning of this year. It's just if anything's got a clear trajectory and an idea of what we're playing, then it makes it more fun. It makes it easier to play. But if those cogs aren't quite working in place and people are kind of shooting in the dark a little bit, it makes it harder work, and it's much better when everything's aligned, I guess. So yeah, probably the period of the Tina storyline, including the aftermath and the most recent story.
I mean, obviously, another talent, Michelle Keegan. You must have really enjoyed those scenes, and obviously, it was a very much a kind of a whodunit. So, was it quite
Mm.
hard to? I mean, at what point were you told it was Rob that killed Tina?
I knew probably about 6 months before Michelle left. So we had the whole build up together where from the inside we were all on the same page as to who was doing what. But obviously we were under an embargo on that one because of the whole point of the whodunit and storyline and everything. But yeah, so within closed doors, we knew what we were doing and how to play it out basically.
And obviously, I imagine you're talking to a lot of media at that time as well. Was it quite hard to keep it secret, or was it because you knew your job was on the line, you didn't want to mess that up?
Yeah, no, I mean, if I'm not allowed to say something, I'm not allowed to say something. You know, it's I have a responsibility to to stick to those guidelines, basically. You know, that's part of my job. You know, so yeah, I don't want to get myself into trouble. I don't mind being in trouble with Rob, but I'd rather not be called up into the office. You
And I mean,
know.
were the other suspects in on it, or was it just yourself and Tina that knew?
Oh no, all of us. So myself, Chris, Ali, and who else was it? Tracy? Yeah. So yeah, all four of us were all in the know. But yeah, it was fun to play.
And it must have been a bit kind of bittersweet because obviously you knew that that was then leading towards your exit. And was
Hmm.
that something that you'd always planned to leave at that point, or was it kind of something that just it got offered to you and you thought, well, I can't turn that down?
No, it just that's what the storyline was, you know. That's what it was. So it wasn't a case of turning anything down or anything, you know. It did feel a shame, if I'm perfectly honest, that we'd put in all that hard work um, and I even today, I still feel that there is so much more to be told of Rob's story, of Carla's story, of the relationships are very, very deeply interwoven with the Cobbles, and so that's whenever we do have chats about a storyline or anything like that, I do always listen because there's a part of me that thinks we haven't even scratched the surface, you know. So I do think it's a bit of a shame that it's gone down that route, but that's what it is, and that's what the show is, and that's our job to tell that story.
So obviously, yeah, so you left in 2017, and then obviously earlier this year we saw you back on our screens. Did you take much convincing, or when you read the scripts, was it just a very much a yes, let's do it?
Well, I'd worked with Kate Brooks way back when she was actually part of the team with all of the Tina stuff. So we had a chat. She obviously knew Rob's history, Rob's stories inside out as well. So there was just an alignment there that kind of makes sense, really made sense, I should say. So yeah, it was an easy decision. Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, obviously, getting to do, scenes in prison, that must be quite, I mean, just in general, playing a villain and getting to be bad, that must be fun because not saying there's anything wrong with being nice, but you don't really get to be bad in real life. So it's nice to play it, I imagine.
I think it's just that there's more avenues to play. There's more choices to be made as to my choices as an actor as to which way to take it down, you know. And one of the things that I love about Rob and what I've purposefully carved out about Rob is that he's a nice guy. You know, it's that dichotomy of his personality that I think that keeps us all on our toes and why I enjoy playing him as well. You know, at the end of the day, he is a murderer. He is a bit of a cad. He is a villain, you know, but underneath it all, he's an all right guy. And I find him quite funny, to be honest with you. So yeah.
I mean, I was going to ask, if you were to meet Rob in the street, do you think you'd get on? Could you imagine being friends with him?
Probably not. No, I think I'd see the red flags, and keep a mile away, to be honest. Yeah.
Now,
Interesting, though, isn't it?
now, obviously, Coronation Street is one of those programs that I imagine, regardless of whether you're in it or not, like we said earlier, it's always going to be a part of your life. And that must be quite a nice feeling and an honor to be a part of the history. I mean, the show has been running for must be nearly 70 years now. I mean, that must be such an honor to have played a small part of that history, and you'll always be, part of the Corrie family.
Yeah, and it is exactly that, it really is that. And I know that everybody says that, but it's true, whenever I go back, it's not just cast, it's the crew, it's everyone that's in the fabric of the building, and it is, I'm proud of it, I'm proud of that. There is a part of me, obviously, that loves working on other projects as well, and likes the variety of being an actor. But no, I feel very privileged to have been a part of the show, and very proud of the work that we've put out there as well.
I think sometimes it annoys me a little bit because there can sometimes be a bit of a snobbery around soaps and oh no, I think it's getting better, but there always used to be a bit of a snobbery around some people didn't appreciate the hard work and the amazing talent that everyone within a continuing drama does. And I mean, I would say some of the best actors that our country has ever seen have come from soaps.
You just keep saying that, Matthew, because we love you for that. I think you're right. But look at the catalogue of names. Look at all of those incredible actors that have been on all of the long-term running dramas. But be it whether they've established themselves career-wise in one of those roles, or whether it's been the pinnacle point of their career. I do think the snobbery is going. I do think that it's still there as well. The industry is in a massive flux, as is many industries right now, with fundings and all sorts of aspects that the world is in a big change at the moment, isn't it? So I don't think anyone's not included in that, and I think with that chapter change that we're going through now, maybe the old school snobbery may well lessen even further. I hope so, because um, people work their socks off on the shows. They put in a lot of hours and a lot of hard work, and it's not easy material as well. I think that's the other aspect of those types of shows. You have to make the unbelievable believable, and it's not easy to do that on a fast turnaround, especially.
Now, obviously, since you've left Coronation Street again, what have you been up to? What has life brought to you? I mean, is there any projects you can talk about with us?
Yeah, so I've got there's a feature that I've got that we shot just prior, actually. We started shooting it just before going on to Corrie, and it's an independent sci-fi called of Infinite Worlds. It was a lot of green screen, and it's a UK production. It's a very ambitious project, but there's a director called Simon Cox that's at the helm of this, and he's been working on it for years and years and years, and it's finally coming into fruition. There's just been a few pickups that have been shot recently, but Simon is deep in edit at the moment, so we're hoping that that's out kind of latter part of. Well, no, we've missed that deadline. Probably next year at some point, to be fair, that will be out. So that was a great project to work on, playing a military leader called Facile. And yeah, there's a lot of it's been nice to be working in space for a while, and very different to the couples, basically. But yeah, no, it's a great challenge. A lot of working with robots and having to imagine what's there opposed to things actually being there. Again, a very different technique of working. So, but apart from that, I've got Panto later on in the year at Blackpool Grand as well. So that should be a nice bit of fun. I'll get back on the treading the boards again there for that. So, but at the moment, yeah, I'm auditioning. There was a couple of things that I thought might go on my way, but just found out that they haven't, unfortunately. But such is the nature of the beast. So we crack on and see what's around the corner.
Well, fingers crossed to say we're looking forward to seeing whatever you get up to next. Now,
Oh,
just
there's
for,
Whitstable
oh,
Pearl as well, I should say. Whitstable Pearl, latest series of Whitstable Pearl, series three. I think that's streaming at the moment. That's just been uploaded onto the platform Stream. So yeah, that's a nice little story in that one as well. Sorry to interrupt you.
no, 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 by all means. Now, obviously, we are here broadcasting to the patients at the Royal Berkshire Hospital, and for the amazing NHS staff and everything that they do. I mean, what would
Yeah.
you like to say to the staff who work tirelessly and do an amazing job? What would you like to say to them?
Well, ultimately, a huge thank you. My family, like everybody others, has had to rely on the NHS at some point or another, and members of the family might not be here if it wasn't for yourself. So it is highly appreciated this end, and a huge thank you.
And of course, what would you like to say to the patients who maybe aren't having the best of times at the moment, but what messages would you like to send to them?
Chin up. At least you're not serving life like Rob Donovan in Coronation Street. And yeah, I wish you all a speedy recovery.
Now, I just want to say, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving up your time. You are welcome back anytime. And of course,
Oh,
keep safe.
bless you. And you. Thanks ever so much, Matthew.